Okay, so this is going to be lesson 1.3 of Microsoft Small Basic, and we're going to talk about variables. And so variables is it's a term we use to store information on the computer. So in this lesson we'll learn how to define and name a variable. We'll use variables to store text or numbers. We'll use arrays to store multiple values. And so what is a variable? Well, in programming you can use a variable to store different kinds of information, such as text or a number. A variable can contain different values at different points in time. Most variables can contain only one value at a time. However, special variables, which are called arrays, can contain more than one value. Let's look at the program in which you create a variable to store a user's name. So here we would write a program and we would say text window dot write what is your name, and that gives the command to print the name. We would say name equals text window dot read. So name is the actual name of the variable. Now when it says read, what it does is it shows a little cursor, and then whatever you type in gets stored under that variable name. So in this example, your program asks the user to type in his or her name. Your program uses the variable that is called name to store the information. Once you hit enter, it will go ahead and print the next line, which is text window dot write line hello in quotes, and then plus whatever you store the name as, and then the period. So this is what it looks like on the screen. And when you're done writing the program, if you click run, this is what will happen. Okay, and we'll go through that in a second. So how do you name a variable? Well, here's some rules that you can follow, or guidelines if you want to think of them that way, that'll help you when you create your variables. You should always start the variable with names, the variable names with a letter. You can use letters, digits, underscores in the names of your variables. You should name your variables so that they describe the values they store. So in the last example we asked what someone's name was, so we made the variable name. So you could do name 1, name 2, things like that. When you name your variables, you should not include certain reserved words like if or for or then, because those are program words. For example, here we have a couple of numbers that we stored. So number 1 is actually going to be equal to 20. Number 2 is equal to 30. The number sum is the actual variable name, which is equal to number 1 plus number 2. And then we can print the number sum by saying text window dot write line dot number sum. When you run the program, it will simply just show 20 plus 30, which is 50. If we wanted to write a program that was to calculate the area and perimeter, we can title the text window by saying equals area and perimeter. We could then have the text window print on the screen how long is the rectangle. Then we use the variable length and this read number operator. And so what your computer will do is the prompt will wait for you to enter a number. When you hit enter, it stores that number and length. Then we see text window dot write how long is the rectangle. That'll print right next to the next line. And then it'll say width equals text window dot read number. So again, whatever number you enter in the computer, it will store under the variable name width. Then you can create a third variable, which is area, which is equal to length times width. So whatever number you plug in for length and whatever number you plug in for width, your computer will automatically multiply the two and save them under the variable name area. Again, we have another variable of perimeter, which is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And then we could print by using the command write line, the area of the rectangle is, and then we input the area variable or the value of it. And then here we do the same thing with perimeter. Now the one thing that's important is there are 2 read commands. If I just type the word read, it'll just treat it like text. So no matter what I plug in, the computer will just spit that back out. When I type in text window dot read number, your computer stores the numerical value that you input in, which allows us to do these math operations. So to better understand variables that store numbers, we just simply write this program that calculates area and perimeter, and I'll do this at the end of the video so you can see what it looks like as we type it out. But the program just asks the user to specify the length and width of the rectangle, and when the user presses enter, the program automatically calculates the area and perimeter of the rectangle. Here's another program that we could write where we store multiple values in a variable, and we call that an array. An array is kind of like a variable. We could give it a name, but it's like a table. It stores multiple values or items in an array. So we know what title is. That puts the title on the text window. We know what text window dot write does. That's going to print that first line. But now when we say students and then in brackets put 1, we're creating an array. And so an array is just saying we have the variable students, but there are multiple inputs to students. And so the first input will be stored as students 1. Then we write another line that asks for the second name. That gets stored in students, but in the second location, which is, and just think of like a list. It's really like a list, but we call it an array. So the second value stored in the students array, whatever you type in here gets stored there. Then we ask for the third student name, and because I put 3 in the brackets, it'll put it in the third place of that array. And the text window dot read will accept the input. And then we could write the line is Robin in here plus array dot contains values students comma Robin. Now what this does is it'll search the array to see if it has the value Robin. It does not, so it'll spit out a false statement. So you could store multiple values of the same type in a single variable by using an array. An array is a type of variable that can hold more than one value at a time. In this example, you could create an array that you name students and you store 3 different names in it. You can then receive or retrieve the stored values by using various operations on the array object. You can use several other functions of the array object in your program. You'll learn more about these functions later. So let's summarize. You should be able to create and name variables and write statements that contain variables. You should be able to use variables to store text or numbers. You should use arrays to store multiple values of the same type. You should know to, you should be able to write a program that calculates area and circumference of a circle based on its diameter. And one way we could achieve this is to ask the user to specify the specific diameter of a circle, create a variable that's called diameter, store the value there, create a variable that's called the radius, where the radius is divided, the diameter divided by 2, create variables called area and circumference, and then plug in the appropriate formulas and let the computer program solve for that. And then you can actually print off to the screen by using the text window dot write line command to display the area and circumference of the circle. And so let's try to do all those things now. So let's pop this up. This is small basic. And so if I were to do the circle, find the area of a circle and the, what was it, the area and circumference of the circle based on the diameter. So the first thing I might try to do is I might say text window dot title, and for the title, I don't know, what should we name that? Let's just name it circle calculator or circumference and area calculator. So that's so what I'm telling the computer is to open up a text window, and in the title portion of the window type circumference and area calculator. Next thing I want to do is I want to ask what is the diameter. So we do text window because I need to prompt the user. In other words, I need to tell them what I want them to write. So I'm going to say write and the write command is different. We do it this way. What is the diameter of your circle? Okay. So, whoops, forgot to close that. So now I need to get that input. So I'm going to call this variable diameter. So I just type the word diameter. And the diameter is going to be equal to whatever they type in. So to have them type in, they're going to enter in the input through text window. And I want to read, but I want to read a number. If I select read, it just stores the number like it's a letter. If I say read number, it treats it, it stores the numerical value, and there is a difference. Just to double check and make sure, I might say something like text window dot write, and this time I want to start a new line, and I'll say the diameter you entered was, and I type in diameter, and then I'm going to put a period at the end. So now here's the thing, if I want to find the circumference, we can name this circumference. Now I could type out the whole word circumference, but I might just do circum. Okay? So if I do circum, what is the formula for the circumference? Well, the circumference of the circle is pi, or 3.14. In fact, let's define what pi is. We could say pi is equal to 3.14. And I could say that my circumference is equal to the diameter, which is diameter, times pi. So now I just want to put that on there, so I'm going to say text window dot, want to write a new line, and I'm going to say the circumference of the circle is, and then I'm going to put circumference. And I notice a little grammar error here, so we'll fix that. Now that I know that, next I want to find the area. So I'm going to define the area, but before I define the area of a circle involves the radius. So let's define what the radius is. So I make another variable. Radius is equal to, this is actually equal to the diameter divided by 2. Okay? So now that I have the radius, I'm going to define the area as being pi times the radius, and then we do the caret symbol too. And then we're going to do a text window to print off what that is. Text window dot write a new line, and whoops, we will say the area of your circle is, and we'll say area here, Now, hopefully, if I didn't make any mistakes, when I click run, we should be in business. Uh-oh. So instead of, what's another way to say radius times radius? Radius times radius, right? That's what radius squared is. I gotta figure, I can't remember how to square. I think you do. I'll look up that command in a second. There we go. And so it says, what is the diameter of your circle? We'll say 10 units. Hit enter. The diameter you entered was 10. The circumference of your circle is 31.4. The area of your circle is 78.5 units. Press any key to continue. Now I'm going to change a few things. I want a space between here and here. And then the other thing is I want to create an array. Well, I don't want to create an array. What I want to do is ask what unit. So I want to ask the diameter, and then I want to ask them the units. So I'm going to write on the same line. So instead of saying right line, I'm going to say right, and then I'm going to ask them to type in units. Whoops, gotta do it in quotes though. Units. And then I'm going to do brackets, inches, feet. We'll do inches, feet, or meters. Okay. Then space, and close this, and run it. And so I'll say, what is your diameter? Then I'm going to, oh wait, we're not quite done yet. Sorry, I got distracted. I got to plug in what it is. So we're going to say unit is defined as text window dot read. Now here we want text, so I'm just going to say read, and that'll read whatever the unit is. So what I'm going to tack on at the end of here is I'm going to say diameter, and then I'm going to say unit. And I'm going to do that here too, unit. And then here I'm going to say unit. And then we'll hit run. Alright. So I'm going to say 10, hit enter. Units, inches, feet, meters. We'll say feet. And then what it does is it points out what the answer is in feet. See, I just tacked all this on right here. Notice that there's no space there, so if I want to put a space between the unit and the thing, I actually have to add it by doing this. See how I did that? Now if we copy this, and copy this. Okay, and then I don't want these periods here, so I'm going to do it like that. Okay, and let's run that one more time. So I'm going to say 20 inches. There it is. That's it.